Hey, fellow gardeners. It's a beautiful day in my neighborhood, and I thought it would be a great time to do my March garden tour. A little bit late this month, but I took some time off and went to the Oregon coast and just kind of vegged out for a couple of days. But I'm back! So let's get started and see what's changed since last month. Okay, we're going to start with what I call Zone 1. It's kind of the front walkway and about half of the front yard area. Got quite a few plants coming up in this garden, more weeds, but we've got some sedum, daffodils, daylilies, Shasta daisies, a lot of cleanup to do still. I also have a number of pots. Some are progressing much faster than others. And again, more sedum coming up. I've got to get some time to come out and weed and clean up and cut back and all that gardeny kind of stuff. The month of February was not a very good month. It was cold. It was very rainy. We had several days of the coldest temperatures we've had for the past year, this year at all, and very few dry days. Here I've got a hyacinth that's just about ready to pop. And over the next week or two, I need to move some of these plants out and divide others. My husband needs to put a post in to put my hose on here. He doesn't feel comfortable having it connected to the house, so I've got to move plants so he can put in a post. Have quite a bit of columbine coming up, heucheras, more columbine, a hellebore, assorted foxglove and other things. And this green stock I typically fill with petunias and geraniums and annuals, so that will be coming in another month or so. And this side garden has a lot of cleanup I need to do. I have a yucca coming up there. I had a huge one in here. I thought I dug it all out last spring, but obviously I missed some roots or something, and there's several plants coming up there that need to be taken out. Hydrangeas getting new growth on it. And this hellebore, it's got to be at least 20 years old. And if we dig down underneath, if I can get down to it, there are a whole lot of baby heliobores down there that I need to dig out and transplant. Just lots of new growth all over the place. Which means I've got to get out here and get cleaning. Okay, this area over here, this is the last major part of the yard that needs work done to it. I think I need to have a pizza and beer party one of these days and get my son and stepson and grandson and anybody else I can round up to come help me get that stuff dug out of there. Because otherwise, I don't think it's going to happen. It is so thick and so stickery. I thought if I worked on it for a few minutes a day, I might make some progress, but it's going to start growing again here real soon, and I've made no progress. Okay, back to the other side. Again, an assortment of stuff that's popped up since last month. I see a peony down there. Just all assortment of things. Couple of daffodils that aren't quite fully open yet. And I have crocus around all over the place. Here's a primrose. It was just like a 99-cent primrose that I planted, probably 15 years ago. And it just continues to bloom every year. I've done absolutely nothing to help it other than throwing down some fertilizer now and then. But I'm thinking I may need to divide it. It's getting pretty dense. Got leaves popping on the lilac bush. And I need to switch directions here real quick. Okay. Let's come back over to the rock garden. Yeah. Heuchera. Got to cut the dead stuff back before the new stuff comes in. Got another smaller heuchera there. Crocus. A red heuchera. Got some Lucifer Crocosmia coming up. Got new growth on the Shasta daisies, on the columbine. And here I've got a little pink flower. I don't know what it is. I don't recall planting anything like that there. The plant, I don't know. I have to wait and see if anything else happens with it. It's always so wonderful when the crocus come up in the spring. white and purple and striped. Of course, before too long, it won't be so wonderful when all I've got left is the foliage that I've got to leave in until it stores up enough energy for next spring's bloom. And the rose bushes need to be pruned and cleaned up. And here are some tulips. It looks like probably a deer got after one of them. These crocus just make me smile. And there's something that I planted probably 25, maybe 30 years ago. And they've just kind of naturalized themselves. And some of them have spread around to areas that I'm not sure how they ever got there, but I find similar crocus coming up in various places. Here I've got some blue fescue grass that needs to be divided. There's a big, really big peony there that's got to get cleaned up before it starts growing. And next to that, an extra large Nephofia that again needs to be cleaned up and probably divided. And let's see, pretty little daffodil. And here we have some more hyacinths that are just about ready to pop, as well as tulips. These tulips are coming back from last year, which is kind of exciting. Some daffodils. The tulips up here I just planted last fall. And here's another peony coming up. A bear's breech. We've got some echinacea back there, but it's not doing anything yet. And now we're almost back to the front walkway. Got tulips planted along with my vanilla strawberry tree hydrangea. Just starting to see a few buds kind of swelling, but it's not doing much yet. I need to finish cleaning it up also. And these are some reblooming white iris that I've got to get divided. They're kind of choking themselves out in the middle of the clump. And so the area that I just showed you, most of that zone 1. We've also got some stuff in zone 2. Zone 2 starts with this little raised bed and goes along the street. And then we'll cross the driveway. Okay. And this is the driveway garden that's really overgrown with the neighbor's grass. It's a real high priority to get in here and clean it up because there are a lot of lovely plants that are being smothered. And some more daffodils. And the pampas grass. I hate this stuff. I planted, I think it was about a 4-inch pot of it, maybe 40 years ago. And now I just can't get rid of it. Got it cut back. I want to completely remove this chunk that's here at the front. But I started trying to dig like 6 inches away from it, and it's solid root. I don't know how I'm going to get at it. I'm going to try chopping it down closer to the ground. I might need to take a mattock to it or something. Really tempted to hook a tow chain up to a big hunk of it and take my husband's 4x4 and see if I can't yank it out, but that's a project that needs to be dealt with right away. And we're still in zone 2. More daffodils blooming. Unfortunately, over the last week, we had hail and really heavy rain, and it looks like most of the daffodils got their necks kind of broken. Got a baby hydrangea. It's blooming out real nice. These are the rose bushes that I intended on moving while they were dormant, and I didn't get them moved. I may just have to rip them out and trash them. I hope to be able to move them, but the roots are really, really deep and thick. And a couple more hydrangeas. This is kind of mostly heucheras and hydrangeas. I had some brunnera in here, but it did not like this area at all. In the summer, it's 90% shaded, but although most of my lot, the soil is heavy clay, this area is sand and gravel with whatever compost is kind of mixed on top of it, but it's very well draining. Although the hydrangeas seemed to like it, but the brunnera really didn't. Okay, and into the backyard. This first part of the backyard is what I call zone 3. And by the way, my zones are Monday is zone 1, Tuesday is zone 2, Wednesday zone 3, and so on. I do that to try to at least some attention to each zone during the week. And hopefully we'll get some decent weather, although it's supposed to be very rainy again for the next 3 days. In this part of Oregon, most of the time when it rains, it's really more of a drizzle. You know, we may get 3/100ths of an inch or 1/10 of an inch. More recently, we've been getting 3/4 of an inch or 1.5 inches. It's really, I'm glad I don't live close to a river. There's a river about 1/4 mile away, but I'm totally about 400 feet higher than that, so it shouldn't affect me. And here we've got a pretty hellebore blooming. There are normally a number of hostas in this area, but they obviously aren't waking up yet. And I really need to do something with that fence. It's actually owned by the state, so I'm a little bit apprehensive about doing too much. But maybe I can find some kind of a nice vine to put over it. Then we come back over to the other side. Another hydrangea that's starting to get some growth. The limelight hydrangea, I haven't even cut it back at all yet. It tends to bud out way later in the year than most of the others. And I've got to decide what to do with this area. Last summer, we had a wasp nest down in the ground back under that fern, and anytime I got near it, I was subject to being stung. And I'm hoping they've found another home for this next year. There's another hellebore back there. Okay, and that's it for zone 3, more or less. I do have a pretty narrow area here between the fence and the jacuzzi deck. I call this zone 3-4. It depends on how ambitious and how much time I have on which zone it ends up being part of. And this is a trumpet vine that the hummingbirds love. But suddenly 2 years ago, it started putting out baby plants everywhere. I knew it was invasive when I planted it many years ago, but it never acted invasive until very recently. So that's another thing high on my list. Along here in the shade, I've got more hydrangeas, and there's a heuchera over here. I don't expect them to do much until probably next month. And we're moving into zone 4. Got a couple more heucheras. I don't remember what these are. They're supposed to be very invasive, but I've had them planted here for probably close to 40 years, and this is as much as they've spread. And I need to put some more shade plants over here. Actually, it looks like I need to chop back these sword ferns before they start growing again. Most of the other ones look pretty good, but this bunch looks like they took a lot of damage this winter. Okay, and back around. This is one of the rhododendrons that was huge, but used to get a lot of shade before we had a massive ice storm 3 years ago. And our summers are getting much warmer. Last year, most of it, the leaves were just all scorched and very sad. I cut it back and cut it back and cut it back, and there's still some more that needs to be cut back. But I do see it's got new growth and buds that look pretty healthy. There's a wide assortment of perennials planted through here. A couple of rose bushes. This gets a lot of sun in the summer. And I'm going to be planting some of the hellebores that I recently purchased back in this corner. There really isn't anything there except weeds and stuff. And so as soon as I can get that cleaned out, those plants will be going in. This is another rhodie that was severely damaged that I cut way back 2 years ago, and it's doing so much better. I can almost feel it smile. And, you know, for a year or so before I cut it back, I felt like it was screaming, help me, every time I walked by it. And this is taking us into zone 5, which is the garden area. I've done a little bit of cleanup on the blueberries, have a bit more to do. I have a whole assortment of plants over here that I've divided. There's probably at least 100 hosta back there under the leaves and stuff. And with all that, my husband can't understand why I like to stop at the plant stores every time I see one. And we have a couple of thornless blackberries and a marionberry. And a big pile of compost. And more flower beds that need cleanup. And I'm getting some nice new growth on my nectarine. That makes me happy. And we've even got a couple of buds down here that are just about ready to pop open. And I've got, I think, 4 new raised beds in boxes in the garage that I've asked my husband to help me get set up to replace some of this other stuff. And these are all apple trees back here that, I don't know, they really need to be tended to. And I don't know that I can do it. And my husband, when he does it, I just get angry because we don't think the same way about pruning. And this is interesting. I've got onions. These are onions that I scattered around between the pepper plants and some of the tomato plants last year that were really pretty shaded out by those plants. And surprisingly enough, this winter they were very happy, so I just kind of gathered them all up a couple weeks ago and put them in a couple of rows here in this bed. And it looks like every one of them came through that ordeal just fine. And we've got the cold planting seeds that I started. A couple of them have some babies in them, but they really haven't been going long enough. But they seem pretty happy. We'll see what happens. And I've got a bunch of leeks left from last year. I'm not sure if there's anything salvageable or if they should go in the compost bin. And these big covered tarp areas are firewood, or what's left of it from the trees we lost a couple winters ago. There's a couple of stumps that I think are probably going to just be there forever because I'm not willing to spend the kind of money that I've been quoted to have them removed. So I think they're going to become planter boxes. And the last thing here in zone 5 are a couple of beds of garlic. And again, they're growing nicely. If I can just keep the squirrels out of them. The squirrels around here are horrid. Up until a year ago, I had 3 dogs, one of which was really good at chasing squirrels, and she seemed to keep them out pretty well. But she passed on, and I don't know that I'm ready to get another dog yet. I've got Jada, who I'm sure is inside anxious for me to come back. So that's my March garden tour. Not a lot of changes from February, but there are a lot of buds, and I'm sure by next month we're going to see some major changes. Take care. I hope you have a chance to get out and dig in your dirt today, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.